Thank
Deepak sir, by the time, can I give a feedback to Dr. Longocher, if you allow?
Yeah.
Uh, Dr. Longocher, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Longocher, and I'd like to say thanks, special thanks, because she has enlightened the sacredness of the groves over there, not the graves, sorry. Uh, as it is, ecology plays a very important role in our lives, and Northeast has been privileged and blessed with the diversified flora and fauna over there, and that's why I think they have in tradition, in culture, they have made some uh, traditions such like that people they should respect and follow, uh, in terms of mythology, in terms of worshipping the grooves over there. And that's why it might be considered that going in initially was in evil, as she already mentioned there. Just one quick suggestion I like to give it to her, that when we have a research paper, as you have done it over there, it was more like a review. In research, you just try to find out something new, and what you have done, definitely it was good, but it was more like a review, that what is going on and what is already there. So if I like to just suggest you, next time when you work out on a paper, there should be something new that should come out of it. So that's just a quick suggestion from my side. And I can see that Khanna ma'am is ready with the presentation. So we can start with that. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Abhinav, sir. Sir, can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and thanks to you all for giving me a chance to speak over here. I'm architect Renu Khanna, and very interesting topic. I got this topic only on Sunday. It's cultural heritage beyond boundaries. So this is something which has been, in my mind all the time. So my topic here is, were ancient Egyptians Hindus? Yeah. So cultural heritage beyond boundaries, and were ancient Egyptian Hindus. Cultural heritage is the legacy of physical artifacts and intangible attributes of a group or a society that is inherited from past generations. Not all legacies of past generations are heritage. Rather, heritage is a product of selection by society. As basic needs of human beings is the same in all countries, so societies, civilizations, hence there cannot be any boundaries. That's what I feel. In cultural heritage, I would say, if physical artifacts are the hardware, then the intangible attributes are its software. I feel cultural heritage is interconnected across the world. There are no boundaries as such, as the basic needs of all human beings are the same. Basically, civilizations sprung up near rivers, and probably to avoid damage due to floods, they chose plateaus and constructed buildings and habitats. Basic needs of humans for living were food, clothing, and shelter. When they started living together, some norms were made and followed. This gave rise to dharma or religion, which ensured greater human values for happy and prosperous living of self and others. Manuals were made, which later became scriptures. Now, recently I was invited to Egypt, Aswan, to Luxor to speak on conservation of oral heritage through architecture. In Hindus, see, I noticed during this visit, I noticed a lot of similarities between Egyptian and Hindus. In Hindus, we worship the kings like Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, both of them were kings. Similarly, even in Egyptians, they worship the pharaohs and considered them to be representatives of gods. Astonishingly, the names were also similar. There was King Ramses and we have Lord Rama. Now, the oldest built heritage, that's the pyramids of Giza, was constructed around 3500 BC. And Lord Krishna was here on this earth around 3228 BC. This thought provoked the deliberation as to, was there any connection between ancient Egyptians and Hindus? Well, then, we first went to Aswan. From there, we took a cruise and we saw all the temples in Aswan, from Aswan to Luxor. To my astonishment, the temples that we saw over there were absolutely similar in plans to the Indian temples. There was a big courtyard and the hypostyle, a smaller courtyard, which was for royal people. And then there was the sanctum with a lot of chambers for different gods. Just like the Hindu temples, we have the mandapas and we have antaral, and they worshipped sun god, just like the Suryavanshis of dynasty of Lord Rama. Probably they knew about the 7 chakras also. So in the crown, they wore this snake, which represents at the Ajna chakra, which represents awareness. And names of many of their kings was Ramses. A procession like Rath Yatra was performed by Lady Pharaoh Hatshepsut. Evidence is depicted in the carvings on stone. See, this is a procession which I noticed over there. They used to, on a boat, they used to take the deity and take the deity throughout the city. And I could not put so many pictures, but they were, dhoop batti, agarbatti and all that was also there. So, which I saw it myself, witnessed myself, just like the Rath Yatra of Jagannath Puri. And this was the procession for sun god Amun Ra. Amun, I thought I related to Om, and Ra is sun at Luxor. Now, the second largest temple in the world is at Luxor. This is Karnak temple for sun god, similar to the sun temple at Konark. So Karnak and Konark, and I noticed that the pyramidical Shikhira over there is very much similar to the pyramids of Giza. Another interesting thing, curiosity of cultures beyond boundaries led me to a revelation that Egypt was probably Ajupat, named after King Aja. King Aja was the grandfather of Lord Rama. Now this you can see, this is Khatwanga ancestry in Bhagavad Puran. The father of Ram, all these brothers, are Dashratha, and their father was Aja. So settlements were safest in plateaus, which in Sanskrit is called Prastha. And then Prastha got twisted to Pat. Like just the Indraprasth, Bagpat, Sonpat, Panipat. These are the 5 plateaus which are asked by Lord Krishna for Pandavas on the names of 5 elements of nature: earth, water, fire, air, and space. So Indrapat, Sonipat, Panipat, Tilpat, and Bagpat. Fortunately, we have this still have the same names. Sonipat is for sun, Panipat is for water. Now, this I thought was Aja, Pata, Ajpat, and when Greeks came, they twisted it to Egypt. Religion is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, and worldviews that relate to humanity in order of existence. Now, language also comes out of that. So, Sanskrit was the scientific language, which is also the mother of all languages, as its alphabetical order came from the evolution of life from fish to mankind. And many other instances, like the original word for the word owl, English word owl, is taken from Sanskrit shabd auluka. Another important thing I noticed was importance of lotus flower in both the cultures. In lotus, Hindus, we know that Lakshmi sits on, Lakshmi ji kamal par chadkar aati hain, sawar hoke aati hain. Vishnu ji, Brahma ji also has kamal. Now this I found in one of the carvings in the temples. Lotus, this is a symbol of sun, of creation, and of rebirth, because at night the flower closes and sinks underwater. At dawn, it rises and opens again. According to one creation myth, it was a giant lotus which first rose out of the watery chaos at the beginning of time from the giant lotus, and the sun itself rose on the first day. This is the symbol of Upper Egypt. Ramayana connection in Egypt and Turkey. Through the ages of civilization, Lord Rama and Ayodhya have not only been popular for people in India, but also inspirational for people across the world. Ram of Ayodhya belongs to Surya Vansh or Solar dynasty. Interestingly, the Ramses of Egypt also belonged to the Solar dynasty and also took on the name Ram. The original Egyptian name of pharaohs in the hieroglyphic language devotes to the vowels R, M, S, which sounds like Ramasa, so much similar to Ram. And you know, when the Greeks came, they used to add ses to everything. So Ramas became Ramses. In Turkey, Ram was the local name. The name of the 8th king, Dashratha, bears uncanny similarity to the name of Rama's father, Dashratha. And in fact, when I went to Turkey, in the Museum of Turkey, I saw in the lineage, I saw one king, Dashratha, there also. The other kings also have a prefix or a suffix of son in their name, reflecting a possible connection to the Solar dynasty or the Surya Vansh. Well, this was an old map, Mitanni and Hittites. So the Mitanni Empire covered what is now known as Iraq, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, including Italy. And this is where I think Turkey is there. So they were ancestors of these people. Mitannis were the ancestors of Egyptians as well. These kings and even a Roman emperor sported the Thiruman, the Vaishnavite marks on their body. And the Sun King Akhenaten of Egypt, who ruled between 1352 to 1336 BC, was a son-in-law of Tushratta. Well, this name is so much similar to Dashratha, the Mitanni king. The name Tushratta has been recorded in Hittite cuneiform script. Anand Toynbee, a British historian and a thinker, in his well-researched book, Mankind and Mother Earth, shows the path of migration of people 4,000 years ago from India, the land of language Sanskrita, to West Asia. The ancient Indians were master navigators with huge ships with them, which they traveled the high seas frequently. The people from India and Ayodhya had traveled different parts of the world and spread these thoughts wherever they went throughout the world. You know, even in Cairo Museum, there are boats which have been found, which have been preserved. About 3,000 years old boats were also there. Now, very interesting. As a Hindu, since my childhood, I have been going to Shiva temple on every Monday and offered water. But I never understood the reason, which was actually clear during my visit to Egypt in February 2020, where I saw a temple in which this is the temple of Lady Hatshepsut, the Lady King Hatshepsut, who offered Nile water every morning on Sunday, on every morning on stone deity, and that water would move throughout the channels, in the channels throughout the city. Now this is our shivling, and we offer water here, and this is their shivling, I would say. Now the guide explained it to me that this was to give reverence to River Nile, as she makes the land fertile, and water moving across the city in channels was to probably to depict that irrigation is also possible, and water was being channelized to fields for farming. This to me also seems similar to the Kavad Yatra, where we bring Ganga water and pour it on the nearest shivling. Now, the famous German archaeologist Hugo Winkler had excavated thousands of cuneiform tablets from Central and Anatolia region of Turkey. The tablet Bogaskoy inscription speaks of a peace treaty between two neighboring kingdoms the Mitanni and the Hittites, called the Treaty of Cappadocia. The text of the tablet reads that this treaty between the Hittites and Mitanni was being witnessed by Varuna, Mitra, Indra, and Nasatya. This implies that Hittites and Mitannis, which were tribes of ancient Turkey, held Varuna, Mitra, Indra, and Nasatya as divinities of high esteem to be invoked before performing any important deeds. In the Indian tradition too, there are names of divinities right from the Vedic times. Varuna and Mitra stand for rains and sun. Indra is considered as the chief of all divinities. Nasatya is one of the twins in the Ashwini twins who stand for good health and well-being. Well, another interesting thing which I found was this, in Hindu mythology, Nandi bull is worshipped as Lord Shiva's vehicle, right? In Egyptian mythology, Apis is considered as god of fertility, also known as Ptah, P-T-A-H, Ptah. And in Hindi, what do we say for father? Pita. So this, the god Ptah was known for fertility, and behind him is standing Maat. So it's so similar to Mata in, in what we call a mother. So in ancient Egyptian, goddess Maat personifies truth, justice, cosmic orders, just like Hindu Mata. Well, Osiris and Vishnu. So ancient Egyptian, their god named Osiris, well, his actual ancient Egyptian name was Osha. And later on, when Greeks twisted it, it became Osiris. Because I said earlier, Greeks have a habit of adding S to every word. So Osha is somewhat like Isha. And Vishnu, so I thought maybe probably this could be Vishnu. So Vishnu is seen on Jatayu bird in South Indian, this thing. And Osiris also has her son, whose son is Horus, like the hawk bird, who takes care, who looks at everybody's deeds, good deeds or bad deeds. Another important thing was Osiris has a lotus in his feet, and from the lotus there arrive 4 gods similar to the Brahma sitting on the lotus with heads on 4 different directions. And even the goddess, the wife of, he had 2 wives, and they were responsible for giving wealth and prosperity. Well, this is something which I actually when I went to that Luxor temple, I noticed there was in Egyptian mythology, Sekhmet, this was Sekhmet. It was a lady goddess with the face of a lion. So lady goddess Sekhmet is the warrior goddess who was the protector of pharaohs and even led them in warfare. Isn't this just like the Sheramali Mata that we have, who killed the demons, Chandamund and all that? So we have always been informed through books that religion of ancient Egyptians was nature. After this visit of mine to Egypt in February 2020, my curiosity to ponder on cultural heritage beyond boundaries increased so much that I was compelled to research that were the ancient Egyptians Hindus? Thank you.
थैंक यू खन्ना जी,
Thank you.
बहुत अच्छा पेपर आपने प्रेजेंट किया
Thank you.
भारतीय संस्कृति को लेकर, भारतीय संस्कृति और मिश्र टर्की को कोरिलेट करके आपने बहुत अच्छा सा प्रेजेंटेशन दिया, धन्यवाद। अगला नाम है डॉक्टर नसरीन बेगम जी का, एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर हैं